and the blessings indicated in the mantras shall also be yours. The mantras extol the virtues of Kos. They embody strength, wisdom, immortality, energy, and earthly prosperity. Vishma explained that if a person gives away an actual Ko, he becomes righteous in this world. If he gives its value or substitutes it with clothes or gold, he attains to heaven. For varying periods of time, the giver should utter specific words. When making these vicarious gifts, this cow with face upturned is being given away, or bhavadevya, meaning the gift represents a cow. The reward for giving an actual cow is residence in heaven for 1,000 years, while those who give its value or substitutes attain to heaven for 1,000 and 1,000 years respectively. Bhishma cautioned that this ritual should not be shared with those lacking faith, possessed of crooked understanding, or inclined towards evil. As the sun set on their gathering, Bhishma listed the names of righteous monarchs who had attained great felicity through their gifts of Kos. According to Vryaspati's instructions, these kings had wisely observed the ritual and were now dwelling in regions of great bliss.
In the assembly of King Yudhishthira, renowned for his humility, Vaisampayana began to recount a tale of great significance. That king's curiosity was piqued once more by the subject of gifts of kine, and he implored Bhishma, son of Santan, to elaborate on the merits of such an act. Bhishma, with his voice like nectar, began to speak by giving a Brahmana, a cow young in years, with a calf, and wrapped in a cloth, one is cleansed of all sins. He said, "But, O king, beware of giving a diseased or weak cow, for it brings only pain and disappointment." Bhishma continued to explain that a Kapala, cow strong, gentle, and fragrant, was the most revered of all. King Yudhishthira's curiosity got the better of him. "Why, O grandsire, do the righteous applaud the gift of a Kapala cow?" he asked. Bhishma smiled, knowing that this tale would reveal the secret behind the Kapala cow's esteemed status. Bhishma began to recount an ancient history, one that spoke of the self-born Brahman Daksha, who was commanded by the gods to create living creatures. Daksha, with his desire to do good for all beings, first created food. As he did so, he drank a quantity of nectar, which caused him to become gratified, and an eructation ensued. This eructation gave birth to Shuravi, a cow whose milk was as golden as the Amriteshwari's offspring, the Kapila. Cows were born from her mouth, and they possessed a complexion like that of gold. Their froth, like the waves of a river, spread everywhere, filling the air with its fragrance. However, when Mahadeva cast his glance upon them, their colors changed, but those who escaped into the region of Sama remained unchanged. At seeing Mahadeva's anger, approached him and said, "The milk that escapes from the mouths of cows is not impure." He explained that just as the wind fire gold and the Essene cannot become impure, neither can the nectar or the milk of a cow. The kine would sustain all worlds with their milk, and he's Daksha made this plea. He presented Mahadeva with a bowl, and some kind grateful Mahadeva adopted the bull as his vehicle and named it after himself. From that day on, Rudra was known as the bull-bannered deity, and the celestials appointed him as the lord of animals. Thus Bhishma concluded, "Hence, O king, in matters of giving away kine, the gift of a Kapila cow is regarded as most desirable. These cows are endued with." In the ancient days, King Saudasa, a descendant of the illustrious Ashika dynasty, sought out his family priest, the revered Vasishta. This wise and powerful sage was renowned for his ascetic prowess, his ability to traverse every realm, and his eternal life. Vasishta, adorned with the blessings of Brahma, was the epitome of spirituality. As King Saudasa stood before him, head bowed in reverence, he asked Vasishta a question that would reveal the secrets of the universe. "O Holy One," he said, "what is that sacred entity in this world whose recitation at all times will bring high merit to a man?" The king's words hung in the air like incense, awaiting Vasishta's response. Vasishta, having first purified himself by bowing to the kine and cleansing his body and mind, began to expound upon the mysteries of the sacred cow. Kine are the embodiment of fragrance. He declared their exudations, emitting a perfume that is both sweet and sacred. They are the great refuge of all creatures, a source of blessings that never witnesses. Vasishta spoke. His words dripped like honeyed nectar, filling the air with an otherworldly sweetness. He revealed to King Saudasa that kine were not just animals, but living deities connected to the very fabric of existence. They represented the past and the future, the source of eternal growth, and the root of prosperity. Vasishta continued, "Anything given to kine is never lost. Kine are the highest food, the best have I for the deities. The mantras called Swaha and Vashat are forever established in kind. Sacrifices are established in kind, and they constitute. The fruit of sacrifices, his words, painted the vivid picture of a world where kine were revered as sacred beings, the wise sage, then revealed to King Saudasa that those who made gifts of kine would transcend all sins and calamities. He explained that it was not the quantity of kine that mattered, but the intention behind the gift. A man with 10 kine who gave away 1 cow earned the same merit as a man with 100 kine who gave away 10, or a man with 1,000 kine who gave away 100. Vasishta's words were like a gentle breeze on a summer day, soothing and uplifting. He instructed King Saudasa to recite and names of kine at all times, to bow his head in reverence before them, and to never feel repugnance for their urine or dung. He should eat he using the bare earth as his dish, and sit on a kawai purified by dipping it in water. As Vasishta finished speaking, King Saudasa felt a sense of wonder and awe wash over him. He realized that the sacred cow was not Justin. In the distant past, a group of cows had been created with a singular desire to attain great prominence. For 100,000 years, they practiced the most severe penances, convinced that their efforts would yield the highest rewards. They envisioned themselves as the epitome of Dakshina in sacrifices, and believed that by bathing in water mixed with their dung, people could be sanctified. As the cows completed their austerities, the puissant Brahman appeared before them, granting them the boons they had sought. It shall be as you wish, he declared. Did ye thus rescue all the worlds? The cows, crowned with fruition, rose up from their penances, becoming the mothers of both the past and the future. From that day forward, people were expected to bow with reverence to kine every morning, ensuring their prosperity. As a result, the cows became the refuge of the world, revered for their sacredness and status as the foremost of all creatures. Their blessings extended far and wide, touching every corner of existence. In the ancient traditions, it was believed that giving away certain types of cows could lead to great honors in various realms. A Kapila cow with a calf resembling herself, yielding copious milk, would grant the giver entrance to Brahma's region. A red-colored cow with a similar calf, free from vice and clothed, will award the giver great honors in Surya's realm. The list of boons continued. Cows of variegated hue, white complexion, dark complexion, smoke like collar, foam like collar, dust blown collar, gold like collar, straw smoke collar, fought with hanging flesh, and gaurai. Each promised rewards in the regions of Summit, Indra, Adnayam of Varuna, Vayukavra, Ditras, Bisadavas, Vasas, Sadhyas, Marutstan, Parvas, Apsaras, Prajapati. In heaven itself, the man who habitually made gifts of kine was said to pierce through the clouds on a car of solar effulgence, shining in splendor in heaven. He would be received by 1,000 celestial damsels adorned with handsome robes and ornaments, who would wait upon him and minister to his delight as he slept. He would be awakened by their musical laughter, the sweet notes of their vinus, the soft strains of their Valikis, and the melodious tinkle of their new purist. The men who made gifts of kine resided in heaven for as many years as there were hairs on the bodies of the cows. They gave away upon exhausting his merit. He would take birth in a superior family among men, carrying with him the blessings of his previous life. Thus, the tradition of giving kine continued to thrive, rewarding those who honored its sacred principles. In the sacred traditions of ancient India, Vasishta, a revered sage, would often extol the virtues of the humble cow. He would say that kine are the yielders of ghee and milk. Their very essence, they are rivers of ghee, eddies of ghee, and the sources of all things. Nourishing to Vasishta, ghee was not just a commodity, but a symbol of life itself. His heart swelled with devotion. Whenever he thought of kine, he will often recite mantras to purify himself, invoking the blessings of these sacred creatures. Kine are always at my front, he would say, and kine are always at my rear. He felt their presence in every limb of his body, and he resided in his very mind. Vasishta's love for kine knew no bounds. He lived among them, surrounded by their gentle lowing. As the sun rose over the horizon, Vasishta would perform a ritual to cleanse himself of daily transgressions. He believed that this simple act could wash away even the most grievous of sins, and so with reverence and devotion he would recite these sacred mantras every morning and evening. The rewards For those who honored kine were boundless. Vasishta declared that givers of 1,000 kine would ascend to the realms of the Gand harvest, and Apsaras, where golden palaces shone bright, and the celestial Dana flowed with crystal clear waters. Those who made gifts of hundreds of thousands of kine, according to scriptural rituals, would attain unparalleled prosperity in this world and great honors in the next. In a time long past, King Saudasa, a just ruler, was deeply moved by Vasishta's words. He understood that kine were not just creatures, but sacred beings worthy of reverence. The king made large gifts of kine to the Brahmanas, restraining his senses. As he did so, his actions brought him great rewards in the next world, where he attained many regions of felicity. Vasishta's love for kine was contagious, and those who listened to his words were inspired to follow suit. They too began to revere these noble creatures, recognizing their value, not just as sources of sustenance, but as guardians of the universe. And so, in a world where devotion and reverence reigned supreme, the cow became an embodiment of all that was pure and sacredous. The sage's words came to an end. Bhishma, the wise elder, nodded his head in approval. He too had heard Vasishta's teachings on the merits of kine, and he knew their power to transform lives. That high-souled giver of land, Saudasa, had indeed been blessed by Vasishta's words, and his gifts of kine had earned him a place among the gods in this world, where reverence for all living beings was. In the midst of a tranquil morning, Yudhishthira, the wise and just king, approached his grandsire, Bhishma, with a question that had been weighing on his mind. Grandsire, he said, what is it that stands above all else as sacred and revered? What is the highest sanctifying object? Bhishma's eyes twinkled with wisdom as he replied, kine, O king, are the most sacred of all creatures. They are the very embodiment of merit and purity with their milk, and the sacred offerings made from it. Kine sustain all living beings in this world. Yudhishthira's curiosity was piqued, and he asked Bhishma to elaborate on the significance of cows. Tell me, grandsire, he said, why are kine so revered? What is their role in our lives? Bhishma began to weave a tale of old, one that spoke of the sacred bond between humans and cows. Long ago, when kine were still hornless, they sought out the eternal Brahman, who granted them horns as a boon, and thus, with their newfound strength, they shone forth in beauty, radiant like the sun. As Bhishma continued to speak, his words painted vivid pictures of a realm beyond the mortal world. In that sacred land, he said, the trees are adorned with flowers and fruits that emit celestial fragrances. The soil is made of gems, the sands are gold, and the climate is such that every season's excellence is felt. Yudhishthira listened intently as Bhishma described the joys of that realm, where righteous men sported in happiness, crowned with the fruition of their desires. Those who give away kine, Bhishma said, attain to such regions where Pushant and the merits reign supremes. The conversation drew to a close. Yudhishthira asked for guidance on how to attain this sacred realm. Bhishma offered him words of wisdom. One should reverence kine, worship them with humility, and never do injury to them. By serving cows with devotion, one can obtain invaluable boons from the men. So Yudhishthira set out on his journey armed with the knowledge imparted by Bhishma. He learned of the sacred rituals that could be performed in honor of kine, drinking their hot urine and milk, subsisting on ghee for 3 days, and making offerings to the sacred fire. As he reflected on these teachings, Yudhishthira realized that the path to spiritual growth was not a distant dream, but a tangible reality that lay within his reach. With each step forward, he felt himself becoming closer to the realm of kine, where righteousness and joy reigned supreme.
In the sacred land of Bharata, King Yudhishthira sought the wisdom of his grandsire Bhishma. The king's curiosity was piqued by a legend that the dawn of the cow held a profound connection with Sri, the goddess of prosperity and beauty. He asked Bhishma to share this ancient tale. Bhishma began his story. In days of old, the radiant form of Sri descended upon a herd of kine. The cows were enchanted by her unparalleled beauty. They approached her with reverence, asking, "Who are you, O goddess? Your splendor is unmatched on earth. We are awestruck by your radiance. Please tell us who you are and what brings you to our presence." Sisrai revealed herself as the beloved of all creatures, known far and wide for her benevolence. She spoke of how she had been forsaken by the deities, but was cherished by the gods. Indra, Vadaswat, some of Vishnu, Varuna, and Agni, who now rejoiced in her presence. "I bring success to those I reside within. Sri, declare those who do not harbor me. Meet with destruction, religion, wealth, and pleasure are but mere means to an end when they are infused with my essence. Kine, however, were hesitant to accept the goddess' offer. They pointed out her fickle nature and told her that they did not need her presence, for they were already blessed with good forms. Sri was taken aback by their rejection, but she persisted in her pleas. It proper of you to spurn me, she asked. I am difficult to attain. Yet I come to you freely. It seems the proverb holds true. When one offers themselves without being sought, they are often disregarded. The goddess reminded them that even the gods and demons had to undergo severe austerities to obtain her favor. Kine, though gracious in their words, remained firm in their decision not to accept Sri's offer. They politely bid her farewell, saying, We do not disregard you, O goddess. We simply do not need your presence. This rejection pained Sri, and she feared that she would be scorned by all the world, moved by their words. However, Sri asked for their protection, pleading with them to rescue her from this situation. She'd promised to reside in any part of their bodies, no matter how repulsive it may seem, including even their rectum. The kind, known for their kindness and benevolence, took counsel among themselves. Finally, they replied, O goddess, we shall honor you by allowing you to reside in our earring and dung, which are sacred and auspicious. Sri was overjoyed, knowing that she had found a refuge with the kind. She rendered herself invisible before them, sealing her pact with the Kaustas Bhishma. In the midst of a gathering of sages, Gandharvas, and celestial beings, Bhishma began to recount the sacred story of the reverence for kine. He addressed Yudhishthira, saying that those who make offerings to the sacred fire using ghee from kine are considered to be performing all kinds of sacrifices. Bhishma explained that without ghee no sacrifice can be complete. The character of a sacrifice depends on ghee, and hence kine are regarded as the root of all sacrifices. Among all gifts, the gift of kine is considered the highest, for they are sacred, cleansing, and sanctifying beings. As Bhishma continued his tale, he spoke of the ancient narrative between the grandsire Brahman and Indra, the chief of the celestials. After defeating the deities and becoming the lord of the three worlds, all creatures prospered and adhered to the true religion. The celestial beings, including rishis, Gandharvas, Kinnaras, Urigas, Rakshasas, deities, Asuras, waste creatures, and Prajapatis, gathered to adore Brahman. Indra, with great reverence, asked Brahman why kine were superior even to the deities. Brahman replied that Indra had always disregarded kine, hence he was unaware of their glorious preeminence. He explained that kine are the lambs of sacrifice and represent it itself. Without them, no sacrifice can be performed. Brahman continued, kine have been said to be the offspring of Shuravi, who underwent severe austerities upon the breast of Kailasa mountains for 11,000 years. The deities, rishis, and nagas were scorched by her penances. Brahman addressed Shuravi, saying, I am gratified with your penances, O beautiful one. Do thou, O goddess, solicit what boon thou desirest. Shuravi replied that she had no need for boons, but rather was happy to have pleased Brahman. He granted her the boon of immortality in a region above the three worlds known as Golovka. Her offspring would reside in the world of men, bringing good fortune and prosperity. Bhishma concluded his tale by saying that Sakra, Indra, begged Brahman to worship kine every day and show them great respect. He had thus explained the sanctifying character of kine, capable of cleansing one from every sin. The sun had set over the kingdom, casting a warm orange glow over the bustling streets. Yudhishthira, the wise and just king, sat with his grandfather Bhishma, seeking guidance on the path to righteousness. Grandsire Yudhishthira said, You have spoken of the gift of kine, which is considered a great merit among kings who observe their duties. But I am curious about gold. What is its essence? Who is its presiding deity? And why is it regarded as the best dakshina in all sacrifices? Bhishma smelled, his eyes twinkling with wisdom. Listen, O king, and I will recount to you the story of gold's origin. It was a day much like any other when Bhishma had performed his father's sraddha at Gainadwara. As he offered the obsequial cake on the blades of Kusa grass, an arm rose from the ground adorned with dadas and ornaments. Bhishma, filled with wonder, realized that it was a sign from the Pitras urging him to follow the scriptural ordinance. Even as I performed the rites, Bhishma said, My ancestors appeared to me in a dream, saying, Thou hast pleased us by adhering to the scriptures. We are cleansed of our sins through the actions. Yudhishthira listened intently, his heart
filled with reverence for the ancient traditions. He asked Bhishma to continue the story. O king, Bhishma said, it is a tale of Rama, son of Jamadagni, filled with great wrath. He exterminated the Kshatriyas from off the face of the earth 3 times, 7, but even after performing a horse sacrifice, which cleanses all creatures and enhances energy and splendor, Rama failed to attain perfect lightness of heart. Rama, seeking guidance, approached the wise rishis and deities, asking for a more cleansing act than his previous deeds. The rishis, filled with compassion, reply that he should honor learned brahmanas and follow their advice. Following this conduct, Bhishma continued. Rama asked the regenerate rishis about the art by giving away, which his wish may be accomplished. They said, who delighter of the priggish, the mortal that has sinned becomes cleansed by making gifts of kind earth and wealth. There is another gift that is regarded as a great cleanser. Gold. Bhishma's eyes sparkled with excitement as he concluded his tale. Gold, O king, is the offspring of fire born from Agni's seed. When he burned the world, it came to be with its bright complexion and wondrous aspect. Yudhishthira listened entranced by the ancient story of his. In the celestial realm, the deities gathered before Brahman, their revered grandsire, and expressed their deep concern. O puissant one, they said, Aegir, named Tareka, who has received boons from you, is afflicting us, and the rishis let his death be ordained by you. They pleaded for Brahman's intervention, stating that they had no other refuge. But Brahman listened to their plea and replied, I am equal in my behavior towards all creatures. I cannot approve of unrighteousness. Let Tareka, that opponent of the deities, and rishis be quickly destroyed. He assured them that he would ordain what was proper in this matter, and that the fever of their hearts would be dispelled. The deities then expressed their doubts, saying, in consequence of your having granted him boons, that son of Dittai has been proud of his might. He is incapable of being slain by the deities. They reminded Brahman of a curse pronounced by Yuma, Rudra's spouse, which had been imposed upon them for trying to stop propagation in former days. The curse was that they would not have any offspring. Brahman listened attentively and replied, Ye foremost of deities, Agni was not there at the time. The curse was denounced by the goddess. Even he will beget a son for the destruction of the enemies of the gods. He explained that Agni's son would possess a dart capable of destroying Tareka and all other enemies of the gods. Brahman stated that this plan was feasible, because will or desire, which is identifiable with Agni, sprang in former times, and is the most eternal of all creatures. The deities were overjoyed at Brahman's words and set out to search for Agni, who was said to possess the power to destroy Tareka. They searched every part of the 3 worlds, but failed to find him. A frog living in water appeared on the surface and told them that Agni was residing in the nethermost regions, having created a mass of waters within which he stayed. The deities thanked the frog for its service, but soon realized that it had been scorched by Agni's energy. The frog dived into the water, leaving the deities to continue their search. They then encountered an elephant who told them that Agni was residing within the Aswada tree. However, when they went to find him, Agni cursed all the elephants, saying their tongues would be bent back. The deities were moved by the elephant's plight and blessed them, saying that with their tongues bent inwards, they would still be able to eat all things and utter indistinct cries. The deities then resumed their search for Agni, but failed to find him until a parrot revealed his new abode within the Sama tree and raged at the par. In the presence of Yudhishthira, Bhishma began to recount the tale of Tareka's downfall. Your Majesty, he said, the gods and sages were in great distress due to Tareka's prowess and the actions of Ganga, who had cast off Agni's seed. The celestial ladies, known as the Critikas, were summoned by the gods to rear the child born from that seed. Among them, only these 6 goddesses possessed the energy to nurture the conception caused by Agni's seedus. The high-souled Chimera grew within their wombs. However, his intense energy began to afflict their bodies. They failed to find peace anywhere in heaven or on earth. Eventually, they delivered the child at the same time, and though held in 6 different wombs, all the portions united into one being. The goddess Earth took up the child from a heap of gold, and it blazed with splendor like the god of fire. Critics beheld their child Kartikeya radiant as the morning sun. Filled with affection, they began to rear him with the sustenance of their brace. Due to his birth from the Critikas and rearing by them, he became known throughout the 3 worlds as Kartikeya. He was also named Skanda, having sprung from Rudra's seed, and got Due to his secret birth in the forest of Rhesus, Cumera, grew the gods, numbering 33 along with their presiding deities, came to behold him. The rishis uttered hymns of praise, and the Gandharvas sang in honor of that child called Cumera, who had 6 heads, 12 eyes, and was devoted to the Brahmanas. His shoulders were broad. He had a dozen arms, and his splendor resembled that of fire, and Aditya, gods with the rishis, became filled with great delight as they beheld him. They regarded Tarik as already slain, and began to bring him divers kinds of toys and articles to amuse him as he played like a child. Various gifts were given unto him. Garuda gave him a peacock, Rakshasas gave him a boar, and buffalo Rana gave him a cock, Chandramas gave him a sheep, Aditya did him rays of his splendor, Shurabha gave him kind by hundreds and thousands, Agna gave him a goat, Io gave him flowers and fruit, Sathanwan gave him a riding chariot, Varuna gave him products from the Essene, and other celestial beings presented him with lions, tigers, pards, umbrellas, and many other gifts. Tarika, however, sought to destroy Cumera by various means, but failed. The god of fire sun grew up and became possessed of great energy and puissance in time. The venerable Yudhishthira, king and righteous soul, sought guidance from Bhishma, the wise son of Santanu. With curiosity burning within him, Yudhishthira asked Bhishma to expound upon the sacred rituals of Sraddha, a ceremony honoring the Pitras or ancestors. Bhishma, with a warm smile, began his discourse. Listen attentively, O king. He said, "For I shall reveal to you the ordinances of Sraddha, a ritual that brings blessings and prosperity." He paused for a moment, collecting his thoughts before continuing. This sacred rite is a sacrifice in honor of our Pitras, who are revered as gods. We worship them, first followed by the deities, demonstrating our respect and gratitude. As Bhishma spoke, his words wove a tapestry of devotion and tradition. He explained that while Sraddha can be performed on any day, it is especially auspicious to do so on the afternoon of the new moon. The Pitras are pleased with this ritual, he said, and their blessings are bestowed upon us. Bhishma then revealed the merits associated with performing Sraddha on specific lunar days. On the first day of the lighted fortnight, he declared, one is blessed with beautiful spouses who will bear many children, all endowed with desirable qualities. He continued to outline the benefits of performing Sraddha on subsequent days, acquiring daughters, steeds, smaller animals, sons, great splendor, fame, wealth in trade, and much more. As Yudhishthira listened intently, Bhishma's words painted vivid pictures in his mind. He envisioned the blessings that would flow from honoring their ancestors with this sacred ritual. By performing Sraddha on the 13th day, Bhishma said, one attains eminence over one's kinsmen, and on the 14th day all young men in the family meet with death. Bhishma concluded his discourse by emphasizing the importance of timing and attention to detail. In the dark fortnight, all days are laudable for performing Sraddha except for the 14th, he said, and within each day the afternoon is better than the forenoon. With a gentle nod, Bhishma concluded his teaching, leaving Yudhishthira with a deeper understanding of this sacred ritual. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over the land, Yudhishthira felt grateful for the wisdom imparted by Bhishma. He realized that honoring their ancestors through Sraddha was not merely a duty, but a way to cultivate blessings and prosperity in his life and the lives of those around him. In the midst of a somber conversation, Yudhishthira, the eldest Pandava brother, posed a profound question to Bhishma, the venerable warrior and sage. What is the object, he asked, which when dedicated to our ancestors becomes inexhaustible? What offerings, if made, last for all time? Bhishma's eyes sparkled with wisdom as he began to recount the ancient traditions of Sraddha, a ritual honoring the Pitras or ancestral spirits. Listen carefully, Yudhishthira, he said, his voice filled with reverence. Those who have mastered the intricacies of Sraddha know that specific offerings can sustain our ancestors for varying periods. As Bhishma spoke, the scene shifted to a tranquil atmosphere where sesame seeds and rice were being offered at a Sraddha ceremony. The Pitras, pleased by these humble gifts, remained gratified for an entire month. Man, the great sage Bhishma continued, has revealed that when sesame seeds are used in abundance, the Sraddha becomes inexhaustible. With each new offering, the duration of the Pitras' satisfaction increased. Fish for 2 months, mutton for 3, and hare meat for 4. The flesh of a goat or bacan could sustain them for 5 to 6 months, while venison from certain ear species granted 8 to 9 months of gratification. Beef mixed with ghee was said to last an entire year. As Vishwa's tale unfolded, the focus shifted to more exotic offerings, the meat of the Vatrinasa, which could sustain the pitchers for 12 years, and the flesh of the rhinoceros, when presented on specific lunar days, became inexhaustible. The putherb called Kalasika and the petals of the Kanchana flower also held a sacred power. In a moment of deep reverence, Bhishma shared verses passed down from the pitchers themselves as communicated to him by Sanakumara, a sage of great wisdom. These ancient hymns of specific rituals for honoring one's ancestors, offering payasa mixed with ghee on the 13th day of the dark fortnight under the constellation Maha, or presenting goat meat or Kanchana flower petals in observance of vows. Yudhishthira listened intently. Bhishma emphasized the importance of performing sraddhas at Gaya, where stood the sacred banyan tree said to make all offerings made beneath. Its branches inexhaustible, even small amounts of water, roots, fruits, meat, and rice, mixed with ani when offered on the anniversary of an ancestor's passing, could become a lasting gift. In this sacred exchange, Yudhishthira absorbed the wisdom shared by Bhishma. His heart filled with devotion to the pitchers. As the conversation drew to a close, the venerable Bhishma sat before Yudhishthira, his eyes shining with a deep wisdom. "Listen to me, O Yudhishthira," he began, his voice low and soothing. "I shall tell you of the ancient secrets of Sraddha passed down from the great god himself to King Seshavan." As Bhishma spoke, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over the assembly. The air was filled with the sweet scent of incense and the soft murmur of the wind through the trees under the constellation Kritika. Bhishma continued. "One performs a sacrifice after establishing the sacred fire. Such a person, freed from fear, ascends to heaven with his children." His words hung in the air like a promise, as if the very heavens themselves were listening. Yudhishthira's eyes grew wide with wonder as he listened to Bhishma's tale. He was a king after all, and the fate of his people rested on his shoulders. "What of those who desire children?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Bhishma smiled, his eyes twinkling with ancient knowledge. "Perform the Sraddha under Rohinite," he said, "and you shall be blessed with many offspring. Under Mrigasires you will find the strength and vitality to overcome any challenges." Bhishma spoke. The stars began to twinkle in the night sky like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse. The constellations themselves seemed to come alive, as if they were guiding the listeners on their journey. Young Prince, eager for glory, asked about the Sraddha under Ardra. "By performing it," Bhishma replied, his voice taking on a hint of awe, "a man becomes the door of fire steeds." The prince's eyes shone with excitement as he envisioned himself leading great armies into battles. The night wore on. Bhishma spoke of the Sraddha under Punarvasu, which brought prosperity through agriculture. He told of Pushya, where growth and advancement were assured, and under Aslesha heroic children were born to those who performed the rite. Listeners' minds reeled as they tried to comprehend the vast tapestry of possibilities woven by Bhishma's words. They listened in rapt attention as he spoke of the Sraddha under Mahas, which brought preeminence among kinsmen, and under Falguna's good fortune was assured us. The night wore on. The stars reached their zenith in the sky. Yudhishthira felt his heart swell with gratitude for the ancient wisdom shared by Bhishma. "And what of those who desire wealth and success?" he asked, his voice filled with hope. Bhishma's eyes sparkled as he spoke of the Sir.
In the midst of the great Sraddha ritual, King Yudhishthira approached his revered grandsire Bhishma with a question. "Grandsire," he asked, "to whom should we offer our gifts during these sacred ceremonies?" Bhishma's eyes sparkled as he began to explain. "My dear King," Bhishma said, "when it comes to offering gifts at Sraddhas, one must never examine the merits of the Brahmanas before making a gift. In all acts related to worshipping the deities and pitras, an examination is proper. But when giving to Brahmanas, we should approach them with devotion and give without examining their worthiness." Bhishma's words were laced with wisdom as he continued. "However, in Sraddhas one must examine the Brahmanas to be employed for assisting in the ritual. This examination should consider their birth, conduct, age, appearance, learning, and nobility of parentage. Amongst the Brahmanas some pollute the line, while others sanctify it." Bhishma's eyes seemed to cloud over as he listed those who are unworthy of receiving gifts at Sraddhas. "He that is full of guile, or guilty of foeticide, or ill of consumption, or keeps animals, or is destitute of Vedic study, or a common servant of a village, or lives upon the interest of loans, or he that sells sama or palustry, or is in the employ of the king or seller of oil, or cheat and false swearer, these wretches among Brahmanas deserve to be excluded from the lineage Thyra. Listened intently as Vishnu explained the consequences of giving gifts to such unworthy individuals. If a man makes gifts of such articles unto such men, knowing their dispositions, he obliges his Pitras to eat human ordure in the next world. Vishma's words were laced with gravity as Vishma continued. Yudhishthira's curiosity grew. Who are those Brahmanas that sanctify the lying? He asked. Vishwa's eyes sparkled once more as he replied, all those Brahmanas that are cleansed by knowledge, Vedic study, and vows and observances, and they that are of good and righteous behavior, should be known as sanctifiers of everything. Vishwa then listed the characteristics of those who were worthy of receiving gifts at Sraddhas: he that is conversant with the 3 Nakshitras, he that has set up the 5 sacrificial fires, he that knows the 5 Suparnas, he that is conversant with the 6 branches of the Via, he that reads the Atharvasiras, who is devoted to the observance of Brahmacharya practices, and who is in the realm of ancient India. A profound conversation unfolded between Yudhishthira and Bhishma. The prince, seeking to understand the origins of the sacred ritual of Sraddha, asked his grandsire to recount its history. Bhishma, with reverence in his voice, began to narrate the tale in the distant past, when the world was populated by descendants of Vrayu, and Anurus, a great sage named Dattatreya, emerged. His son Nimai was born with an abundance of ascetic wealth. As time passed, Nimai's son Srimat came into being, radiating beauty and virtue. However, fate decreed that Srimat would leave this world after only 1,000 years of life. The burial of Nimai, overcome by grief, performed the purificatory rites to honor his departed son. Yet as he sat amidst the remnants of their feast, an unsettling thought arose in Nimai's mind. Had he inadvertently introduced a forbidden practice? His heart heavy with regret, he pondered what consequences might unfold. It was then that Aktri, the progenitor of their lineage, appeared before him. The wise sage comforted Nimai, assuring him that his actions were in fact ordained by the self-born Brahman himself. Aktri revealed to Nimai that the Sraddha ritual was a sacred offering to honor the Pitras, the ancestors who had shaped the very fabric of their existence. He instructed Nimai on the precise manner in which this rite should be performed, first invoking the sacred fire with mantras, then pouring libations unto Agnisamavarana and the Visudevas, who were companions to the Pitras. As Atri continued his guidance, he listed the names of those eternal deities who deserved shares in the offerings made at Sraddhas. Among them were Vala, Pratadvetpapa, Panika, Havana, Harshnaik, Shimek, and many others. All conversant with the rhythms of time, Bhishma concluded his account by cautioning against certain articles that should not be included in Sraddhas: kodraba, paddy polka, asafoetida, onions, garlic, black salt meat from animals slain with indinum, shafts, and several other substances. He also emphasized the importance of excluding those who were impure or tainted by sin from participating in this sacred rite. Thus, the ancient tale of Sraddha unfolded before Yudhishthira, illuminating the profound significance of honoring one's ancestors through ritual offerings. In the ancient days, Bhishma began to recount a tale that would reveal the secrets of the sacred ritual of Sraddha. He spoke of Nimai, who had performed the sacrifice with great devotion, and how all the great rishis followed suit, offering oblations unto their Pitras ancestors with utmost attention. As the offerings poured in from people of all classes, the Pitras began to suffer from indigestion. Their bellies were filled to bursting point, and they became afflicted by the sheer quantity of food being offered to them. They approached Sama, the god of the sacred drink, seeking relief from their discomfort. Alas, great is our affliction. They cried, do thou ordain what is necessary for our ease. Samo listened to their plea, and said, if ye gods are desirous of obtaining ease, do ye repair then into the abode of the self-born. And so the Pitras and deities set off towards the grandsire's dwelling on the summit of Mount Meru. Upon arriving at the grandsire's presence, they poured out their hearts to him. O illustrious one, they said, with the food that is offered us in sacrifices and Sraddhas, we are being exceedingly afflicted. O Lord, show us grace and do what would be for our good. The self-born listened to their words and replied, here the god of fire is sitting beside me. Even he will do what is for your benefit. Agni, the deity of fire, stepped forward and said,
Each sires, when a Sraddha comes, we shall together eat the offerings made to us. If ye eat those offerings with me, ye shall then without doubt succeed in digesting them easily. The Pitra's hearts were filled with joy at Agni's words, and they knew that their troubles would soon be over. From that day on, it became a custom to offer a share of the Sraddha offerings to the deity of fire. First, this was done to ensure that the Pitras could digest the food easily, and that no harm came to them from excessive eating. Bhishma continued to explain the intricacies of the Sraddha ritual, revealing its secrets and ordinances as he spoke. The prince of Kura's race listened intently, his mind filled with wonder at the ancient traditions being revealed before him. This is the high ritual in respect of the Sraddha. Bhishma said, through Sraddhas performed on earth, the deceased members of one's own family become freed from a position of misery. Bhishma concluded his discourse by mentioning that even great masters of Yuddha, such as the grandsire Brahman and the Rishi Kasyapa, were counted among the Pitras. He spoke of the importance of performing Sraddhas regularly, especially on the day of the.
In the sacred halls of the kingdom, King Yudhishthira sought guidance from his venerable grandsire. Bhishma, with a curious mind and a desire to understand the intricacies of spiritual duty, he posed a question that would spark a profound conversation. Grandsire Yudhishthira said, if Brahmins observing vows eat at the invitation of another Brahmin, do they transgress their own vows? Should they refuse such invitations, or is it permissible to partake in the offerings made by others? Bhishma's wise eyes twinkled as he began to expound upon the nuances of spiritual practice. Those who observe vows not ordained by the Vedas may eat at the request of another, he said. However, for those who follow vows explicitly mentioned in the sacred texts, eating the offerings made by others would be considered a breach of their vow. Yudhishthira's curiosity was piqued, and he pressed on with his inquiry. Some people say that fasting is a form of penance, he said. Is this truly so, or is it not? Bhishma smiled, his expression gentle yet firm. People often mistake regular fasting for true asceticism. In reality, one who mortifies their body is not considered an ascetic or one conversant with duty. True renunciation lies in self-denial, not just physical restraint. A Brahmin should always be a seeker of truth, practicing abstinence from food and speech, and dedicating themselves to the study of the Vedas. As Bhishma continued to guide Yudhishthira through the complexities of spiritual duty, he revealed the secrets of true asceticism. One who eats only in the morning and evening, abstaining from all food between meals, is said to be an abstainer from food. He explained, he who has congress with his wedded wife alone at her appointed time observes the vow of brahmacharya. Yudhishthira listened intently as Bhishma revealed the path to true devotion. By making gifts, one becomes truthful in speech. By abstaining from meat obtained through slaughter, one becomes an abstainer from meat. By giving generously, one is cleansed of all sins, and by remaining awake during the day, one comes to be regarded as always vigilant. Their conversation deepened. Bhishma shared with Yudhishthira a tale of ancient times, when 7 great rishis had come upon a Brahmin family in dire need. The rishis, afflicted by hunger, had been forced to cook the dead son of the king Savi, as sustenance. Ahimsa is not just the absence of violence, Bhishma said, but also the presence of compassion and self-control. When one accepts gifts from a monarch, it can be sweet at first.
It was a day like any other on the banks of the sacred waters. The rishis, those revered sages and seers, had gathered from far and wide to cleanse themselves of their sins through ablutions in the holy waters. Among them were some of the most renowned and powerful rishis of their time, including Sakra Anurus, Kevai Gastya, Narada, Prabhata, Fredu Vasishta, Kasyapa, Gautama, Viswamitra, Jamadagdai Galava, Asheka, Aradwaja, Arundatai, the Valakilius, Sivaidilpa, Nahasha, Amarashik, Eatai, Dandumara, and Purus. They bathed in the waters. Agastya, of Rishi of great wisdom and power, noticed that someone had taken away the stalks of lotus he had extracted and deposited on the bank. He was not one to be trifled with, and his suspicions were immediately aroused. Who has taken away my stalks? He thundered his voice, echoing across the waters. The other rishis were shocked by Agastya's words, and they knew that they must clear their names of any wrongdoing. They gathered around him and swore to uphold righteousness and truth. One by one, each of them vowed to take a specific action. If someone had indeed stolen Agastya's stalks, Freud declared that the thief would be censured when censured assail when assailed, and eat the flesh attached to the backbone of animals. slaughtered in sacrifice of Esish the promise that the thief would neglect his Vedic duties, leash hounds, and live as a mendicant in a city or town. Kesiput vowed that the thief would sell all things in all places, misappropriate deposits, and give false evidence. Gautama declared that the thief would live with pride, displaying an understanding that did not see all creatures equally and always, yielding to desire, and Rathangeras cursed that the thief would be impure, a censurable Brahmana, who leashed hounds and was guilty of Brahmanacide. Dandumara vowed that the thief would be ungrateful to his friends, take birth in a Sedra woman, and eat alone any good food coming to the house without sharing it with others. Dilapa pronounced that the thief would descend to regions of misery and infamy reserved for a Brahman, who resided in a village having but one well, and had sexual congress with a Sidra woman. Pure vowed that the thief would adopt the occupation of a physician, be supported by his wife's earnings, and draw sustenance from his father-in-law. The oaths continued, each Rishi adding their own curse upon the unknown thief. Sukra vowed that the thief would eat the flesh of animals not. In the midst of a sullen discussion on sacred customs and traditions, Yudhishthira, the wise king, posed an intriguing question to Bhishma, the revered elder of chief apprentice. Rare he asked by whom was the custom of giving umbrellas and sandals at obsequial ceremonies introduced, why was it introduced, and for what purpose are those gifts made? Bhishma, with a twinkle in his eyes, began to weave a tale that would transport Yudhishthira to a bygone era. Do thou, prince, he said attentively, listen to the details. I shall recite in respect of the custom of giving away umbrellas and shows at religious rites, and thus Bhishma embarked on a narrative that would unfold like a tapestry of ancient lore. In a distant past Jamanagni, a mighty Rishi of Phrygia's lineage was engaged in his daily practice. With his bow, his wife Renuka would collect the arrows he shot and bring them back to him, as he delighted in the whizzing noise of his arrows and the twang of his bow. On one scorching day, when the sun was at its peak in the month of Jastamila, Jamanagni's wife Renuka set out to fetch the arrows her husband had shot. However, she soon found herself scorched by the intense heat and sought refuge under a tree. She rested for only a moment, fearing her husband's wrath. Renuka returned to collect the arrows once more. Her feet smarting with pain, she approached Jamanagni, trembling with fear. The Rishi, filled with anger, repeatedly addressed his fair face, saying, O Renuka, why hast thou been so late in returning? Renuka, her voice trembling, explained the cause of her delay. O thou that art endued with wealth of penances, my head and feet were scorched by the rays of the sun, oppressed by the heat. I had betaken myself to the shade of a tree. Jamanagni's anger only intensified, as he vowed to destroy the star of day, which had afflicted his wife in such a way as Jamanagni stood facing the sun, drawing his celestial bow and taking up many arrows. Surya himself appeared before him, disguised as a Brahmana. The sun god approached Jamanagni and said, What has Surya done to displease thee? Coursing through the firmament, he draws up the moisture from the earth, and in the form of rains, he pours it down once more on her. The sun god continued, It is through this, O regenerate one, that the food of human beings springs up, food that is so agreeable to them. The Ved. In the ancient land of India, a legendary tale unfolded between two revered figures, Jamanagni, a powerful sage, and Surya, the radiant sun god. One day, as the sun reached its peak in the sky, it approached Jamanagni with humility, disguising itself as an ordinary Brahmana. Surya, with folded hands and a gentle tone, implored Jamanagni to reconsider his anger towards him. O regenerate Rishi, Surya said, the sun is always in motion. How can you pierce the Lord of Day, who is continually moving forward? But Jamanagni remained resolute, his fiery spirit unyielding. With a hint of amusement on his face, Jamanagni replied, I see through your disguise, O Surya. I know that you are both moving and motionless at the same time. I shall teach you a lesson today. He declared that he would strike down the sun with his arrows when it stood still in the heavens at midday. Surya, taken aback by Jamanagni's determination, pleaded for protection. O Holy One, Surya said, though I have often did behold, I am a suppliant for the mercy. But Jamanagni was unmoved, his mind fixed on the challenge ahead of us. The sun god continued to beseech him. Jamanagni's expression softened, and he smiled. He asked Surya, When you have sought my protection, what do you fear? Would a man who can slay a suppliant also violate the bed of his preceptor or drink alcohol? The sage's words carried a weighty warning. Surya, realizing his own limitations, bowed down to Jamanagni in a gesture of respect and gratitude. He offered him an umbrella and a pair of sandals as gifts. Take this umbrella, O great Rishi, Surya said with which the head may be protected from my rays. This pair of sandals is made of leather for the protection of the fetus. Gemenidna accepted the gifts. Surya declared that these offerings would become an integral part of sacred rituals in all three worlds. From that day forward, the tradition of giving umbrellas and shoes to Brahmanas was established as a meritorious act. Bhishma, the revered sage, continued the tale by extolling the virtues of this custom. He explained that those who give away white umbrellas with 100 ribs to Brahmanas would attain eternal felicity after death and reside in the realm of Indra, surrounded by Brahmanas, Apsaras, and Devasas. The story came to a close. Bhishma emphasized the significance of this traditional present one. He said, "He who gives shoes to Sneteka, Brahmanas were those practicing rituals, whose feet." The sun had just begun to rise over the kingdom, casting a warm glow over the bustling streets of Hastinapura. Yudhishthira, the eldest of the Pandava brothers, sat on his throne deep in thought. He turned to Bhishma, the revered elder statesman, and asked for guidance. The foremost one of Bharata's race, Yudhishthira, said, "Do you tell me all about the duties of a householder? What must I do to live a life that brings prosperity, not just in this world, but also in the next?" Vishwa's eyes lit up with a knowing glint. He nodded his head and began to speak in a voice that was both ancient and timeless. "Let me tell you, O Bharata," Bhishma said, "the story of Vasudeva and the goddess Earth. It is an old tale, but one that holds great wisdom." Bhishma's words carried Yudhishthira back to a time long past, when Vasudeva, the mighty king, had sought out the goddess Earth for guidance on how to live a life of virtue. Vasudeva approached the goddess Earth with reverence and humility. "O revered one," he said, "I have heard that you hold the secrets of the universe within your vast expanse. I beg of you share with me your wisdom on what it means to be a householder." The goddess Earth smiled benevolently upon Vasudeva. Her voice was like the gentle rustling of leaves. "A householder must worship the rishis, the deities, the pitras, and men," she said. "He must perform sacrifices with devotion and purity. The deities are pleased with offerings, while men are gratified by hospitality." Vasudeva listened intently to the goddess' words, his heart filled with a desire to live up to her ideals. "What else should I do?" he asked. "Abstain from food during the day," she replied, "and attend to your sacred fire and sacrificial offerings. Offer oblations of food and water, or fruits, roots, and water for the gratification of the pitras. Perform the Vasudeva offering with rice boiled in clarified butter, and offer separate and distinct oblations unto Prajapati." Vasudeva's mind was filled with a sense of wonder as he listened to the goddess' teachings. "What about guests?" he asked. "How should I treat them?" "Offer food to men at the entrance of your house," she said. "This is known as the Valai offering. Make separate offerings to the Maruts and deities in the interior of your house, to the Vasudevas in open air, and to the Rakshasas and spirits at night." As Vasudeva listened to the goddess' words, he felt his heart in the sacred halls of ancient wisdom. Yudhishthira, a just king of the Bharata, dynasty, sought enlightenment from Bhishma, a revered sage. "Tell me," Yudhishthira asked, "about the gift of light. How did it originate? What are its merits?" Bhishma's eyes sparkled with ancient knowledge as he began to recount the tale. "In days of yore, Suvarna, a golden-complexioned ascetic, had mastered all the Vedas and surpassed many noble souls. One day, while strolling on the majestic breast of Meru, the mountain of gold, Suvarna encountered man, the lord of all creatures. As they sat together in contemplative silence, Suvarna asked man to enlighten him about a profound mystery. "What is this practice?" Suvarna inquired. "Of offering flowers and incense to the deities. How did it originate? What are its merits?" Man smiled knowingly, for he had witnessed the dawn of time itself. He began to recite an ancient tale, one that would unravel the secrets of the universe. In a bygone era, Sipra, a wise Brahmana, had visited Valai, the mighty Dedya, king who ruled over the three worlds. As they sat together in reverent silence, Valai asked Sipra about the merits of offering flowers and incense to the deities. Sipra's eyes shone with ancient wisdom as he began to speak. "O Prince of Azure," Sipra said, "the gift of light originated when penance first sprang into life. Compassion and virtues followed, and with them came the sacred herbs and flowers that gladden the mind and confer prosperity." Sukra's words wove a tapestry of ancient knowledge, revealing the secrets of the universe. He explained that flowers are born from trees, some wild, some domesticated, some mountain-dwelling. Their scents can be agreeable or disagreeable, and those with sweet fragrance should be offered to the deities. The lotus with its delicate white petals is a favorite among the Gandharvas and Nagasakra, Continued flowers that grow on cemeteries and crematoria are not fit for marriage rites or acts of dalliance, but those born on mountains and in vales with agreeable scent and aspect should be offered to the deities. He revealed the secrets of incense making, explaining that some exudations are auspicious, while others are inauspicious. Asakura spoke. The air was filled with the sweet fragrance of knowledge. Yudhishthira's eyes shone with understanding, and Bhishma smiled knowingly, for he had witnessed the ancient wisdom unfold before him. The tale of Silvarna, Manasakra, and Valai became a testament too. In the sacred halls of Bharata, Yudhishthira, a king with a thirst for knowledge, approached his revered grandsire, Bhishma, with utmost respect. He inquired about the merits of presenting flowers, incense, and lights to the deities. He also sought clarification on the rituals associated with the Valayan offering made by those who followed the traditional way of life. Bhishma, a sage with immense wisdom, began to recount an ancient tale from the annals of time. It was the story of Nahasha, a king who had ascended to heaven through his own virtues and good deeds. As he dwelled in the celestial realm, Nahasha performed various acts that were both human and divine. He would daily offer incense and lights and even perform the sacred rituals of japa, silent recitation, and meditation. However, as time passed, Nahasha's pride grew, fueled by his newfound power and status. He began to disregard the traditional practices and rituals, causing him to lose his spiritual energy. The rishis, who were once revered for their wisdom and strength, were now forced to bear Nahasha on their shoulders. Agastya, a great ascetic, was among those chosen to carry the burden of the proud king on day. Freyu, a sage renowned for his knowledge of the sacred texts, arrived at Agastya's hermitage. He found Agastya seated in contemplation and addressed him with utmost concern. Great ascetic, he said, how can we endure this indignity inflicted upon us by Nahasha, who has become the chief of the deities? His arrogance is a stain on our sacred traditions. Agastya, the troubled by Nahasha's actions, expressed his inability to curse the king. He explained that Brahman himself had granted Nahasha a boon that made him invincible. The self-born deity had also given Nahasha nectar to drink, which further solidified his power. Freyu, undeterred by Agastya's words, revealed his plan to counteract Nahasha's energy and restore the true Indra to his rightful place. With a fierce determination in his eyes, he declared that he would hurl Nahasha down from his position as chief of the deities. The sage vowed to re-establish the true Indra, who had performed numerous horse sacrifices, and to curse Nahasha for his unrighteous deeds. As Freyu spoke, Agastya's face lit up with a sense of hope and determination. He was deeply moved by the sage's words and felt a weight lift from his shoulders with gratitude in his heart. He accepted Freyu's plan and pledged to support him in his endeavor to bring down Nahashan. So, with a newfound sense of purpose, Agastya and Frey. In the court of King Yudhishthira, a tale of woe and redemption unfolded. The king's curiosity was piqued by the story of Nahasha, who had once been the chief of the gods, but was now cast down to earth. Bhishma, the venerable sage, began to recount the events that led to Nahasha's downfall. It was said that Nahasha, in his early days as king, had performed all the sacred rites with devotion and piety. He would offer light and incense to the gods, present offerings on special days, and respect the Brahmins. His kingdom prospered under his wise rule. However, as time passed, Nahasha's fortunes began to wane. He grew arrogant and neglected the sacred duties that had brought him prosperity. In the first place, the gods' energy began to decline, and their sacrificial rites were obstructed by mischievous Rakshasas. In a moment of hubris, Nahasha yoked the great Rishi Agastya to his chariot, commanding him to bear the vehicle from the banks of the Saraswati. Freyu, another wise sage, was aware of Nahasha's actions and had been secretly guiding Agastya. Freyu instructed Agastya to close his eyes until he could enter his matted locks, where he would reside unseen. As Agastya approached Nahasha, the king ordered him to yoke himself to the chariot without delay. Freyu, still hiding within Agastya's locks, was pleased with Nahasha's actions, but chose not to reveal himself. He knew that Nahasha had acquired immense power through a boon granted by Brahman, and did not want to provoke him. However, when Nahasha struck Agastya on the head with his foot, Freyu could no longer remain silent. Enraged, Freyu cursed Nahasha, saying, "Since you have struck this great Rishi, you will fall down to earth, transformed into a snake." And so it was. Nahasha immediately fell from his throne and took on the form of a serpent. But even in his fallen state, Nahasha retained some semblance of his former self. He began to propitiate Freyu, hoping to redeem himself. Agastya filled with compassion, also joined Nahus's efforts to appease the sage. Eventually, Freya was moved by their devotion and agreed to lift the curse. However, he warned Nahusha that his redemption would not come until a future king, Yudhishthira, rescued him from this fate. With these words, Freya vanished, leaving Agastya to return to his hermitage years past, and Nahusha's story was forgotten in the annals of heaven. But when King Yudhishthira came to, in the midst of a somber conversation, Yudhishthira